Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Our Community with Whitney Prather. Learn about what's happening in Stark and Tuscarawas counties and the surrounding areas. We're going to highlight interesting people, businesses, organizations, churches, events, and even more. Stay tuned. Happy Thanksgiving. Yes, it is Thanksgiving 2020. I hope that you are able to experience the joy of the season, even if what you're walking through right now isn't joyous, if it's not ideal. I just want to challenge you to focus your mind, your attention on something that you're thankful for, and take a moment to glorify God for that. If you're grateful for breath in your body, thank you, Lord. I'm so grateful for all of you. Thank you for giving me your precious time today. I really do appreciate it. I'm trying to be a good student. If I think about what's happened throughout this year, I'm trying to be a good student with regard to, just what we're learning. This has been a very challenging year and it's coming to a close. So it's really time to start thinking about what we've learned. And one thing that I have learned is that God's presence is with us. Today on Thanksgiving, God's presence is with us in all and every day it is. So definitely take heart. And I'm not going to hold you up. Here's my interview. Today, I am chatting with Kelly Klein. She is so inspiring. She serves as the Director of Development and Communication at Lighthouse Ministries. Lighthouse Ministries is an urban youth center located in Southeast Canton. She lives in the neighborhood where the Lighthouse is located, which is awesome. And she's a part of the neighboring Anabaptist community at First Mennonite Church. Kelly loves being a foster parent, listening to NPR and Beyonce, raising chickens in the city, and advocating for making this world resemble what Martin Luther King Jr. and Mr. Rogers dreamed was possible. That sounds amazing, right? Hearing the good that Lighthouse Ministry does truly warmed my heart. I hope it warms yours as well. Here we go. Kelly, how are you today?
Doing great. Thank you.
Good. I know why you're doing so great. It is your birthday today. So before we talk about anything, we need to talk about how you're celebrating.
Yeah. Well, celebrating by starting my day off with you, obviously. But yeah, we have a lot going on at work and a lot with the Lighthouse. And so there's really honestly no place I'd rather be than right here.
Yeah.
And happy to be here. I did include like a couple of things throughout the day that I'm looking forward to. I'm meeting my mom at a new coffee shop in town.
Lovely.
And just little things to kind of make it special, or a little extra special, a little out of the norm. I spend most of my time like either in the Southeast or very close to the Southeast. And so little times to like kind of get away or like check out something new that's local, make it really special.
Yes. Well, very happy birthday to you. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I think it makes our time even that much more special. And shout out to your mom and dad for making you.
Yeah.
On my birthday, I'm always like, Mom, thank you. I appreciate you so much. And Daddy, thank you.
I'm so happy to be alive. Yeah.
All right. So today we're talking about you and Lighthouse Ministries and just your impact in the community. And I heard your story. I'm so interested by it. But before we get to your story and, how you have been impacting these young people, I want to talk about Lighthouse Ministries and how it started and what it is and all of that. So why don't you just tell me the mission first?
Yeah. So the mission of the Lighthouse is, it's very location based. So the Lighthouse is located right in Southeast Canton, near Hartford Middle School and the DeHoff Library. So it's just tucked right in there. And since its very start, it existed to be a resource to parents and families as they invest in their children. So over the years, it's taken different shape based off of what parents and families have said that they've needed. But the real mission behind like the organization itself is to walk alongside the children in Southeast Canton and help to provide like resources and activities that help unveil that giftedness that we know is inside each of them. And so if that means providing, after school support or dance classes or yoga classes or different types of business building enrichment programs, our real hope is that the kids will understand that they are filled with talents and passions and have so much to offer, not only our neighborhood and our community, but the city and the world. And we'll use that in a way that impacts others for good.
Praise the Lord. I'm so excited to hear you talk about that because, man, I've been in these situations where you don't feel like people around you see you and you don't have the resources that you need. And maybe that you see some of your peers experiencing. So that is amazing. You guys are celebrating your 25th year this year.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
How you're welcome. How are you guys celebrating your 25th? Obviously, it's probably a little bit difficult this year.
Yeah, really different because of COVID.
Yeah.
So we are in kind of planning stages of what that's going to look like. It's as far as like an actual celebration, our programming with the kids is always like on the front of our minds. And so we have some details to kind of work out, but we're so excited. I mean, this is 25 years of people coming alongside us and investing in this neighborhood and really touching the lives of thousands of kids and family members and providing safe spaces and programs that communicate like you have value and you have worth and you are an asset to this neighborhood and the city. And we just want to do in that celebration for our 25 years, we just want to highlight the kids who have been here and the families who have been here all along, but also some of those donors who have been with us for, 10 years or 25 years and who have said like, this is not only like a deep goodness that they recognize, but this was like a sacred act that they could participate in and supporting like what's happening here.
So you talk about worth and how you try to impart these truths to these children. Tell me about the age that you're reaching and tell me about the specific programs that are really impacting this notion of you're valuable and you have way more to offer.
Yeah. So we focus on first grade through 12th grade, but I will be honest to say we have had over the years some kindergartners sneak in there. Once their older siblings are here, you have some kids pulling up in the car and saying, Miss Kelly, this is my year. Like I'm getting out of the car and I'm coming too. And so we've expanded our programming to include kindergartners for some of our field trips and even in the after school program over the years. So we have an after-school program that runs through the whole school year. We also have a summer camp, and that was a response from the school district asking us, are there anything that you could provide during those summer months to help fill the summer gap or the summer learning gap that a lot of our students experience. There's a lot of research that's done that shows that kids in low socioeconomic neighborhoods have a larger learning gap than kids in other neighborhoods. And that being, if they're not going on as many family trips or if mom's working or, whatever the reason may be, without somebody kind of guiding them through and encouraging them to be constantly learning or constantly reading a book or practicing math facts, this gap, like it gets a lot bigger for them. Yeah. And so a lot of our kids were starting the school year several months behind where their peers in other, parts of the country may be starting. And so the summer enrichment camp started that way. We have a summer field trip program where we go on like 17 field trips and everything from going to the Stephen Dairy Farm where the kids all like milk cows and feed the baby calves to the Cleveland Zoo and the Cleveland Art Museum. So experiences outside of Canton that they may not have, been able to do before. And then the other thing is our evening, middle and high school clubs. And that's really centered around giving safe spaces for those age groups to process like real world and current events, but also doing things from a faith lens. So what is happening in their everyday? Like what are topical things that they want to talk about, whether it's social media or relationships, and doing that from a space of, okay, well, what are the core values that I have and how do I process this? Surrounded by peers and adults and mentors that really love me and care about me. And we really are intentional that in any of our programs, we never have more, specifically even the after school program with the younger kids, we never have more than a 1 to 10 staff to student ratio. And so usually that looks like one staff member for every 10 students. And then we have about 2 or 3 volunteers with each of those groups. So it's really, it ends up coming down to like 1 staff or volunteer for every 2 kids. And that ratio is even smaller in our summer enrichment camp. So it's 2 months of programming for our elementary schoolers where they are partnered up with, it's a 1 to 2. So 1 staff person for every 2 kids. And we just really focus on mentoring and encouraging and supporting them, helping them highlight and point out like what their assets are or what their gifts are, their interests or their passions, highlighting those things for them and just encouraging them to check those out and kind of explore those even more, that those may be the true like callings that they have, the things that they are good at. Those may be the true callings that they have to offer, our community and the world after high school.
What are some of the success stories that you see on a day-to-day basis? You just shared with me before we started actually recording that you have people who are kind of like alumni still want to participate in your program. So tell me about the impact for people who have moved on.
Yeah, having alumni come back is such an incredible gift. Since we are 25 years old or just about 25 years old, we are actually with our second group, our second generation of Lighthouse kids. And so we have parents who grew up coming to the Lighthouse who say, like, you were the reason, like the relationships that I had here are the reason I wasn't doing A, B, or C. Like you were the reason that I wasn't on the streets. And the Lighthouse started to give an alternative to kids. Like our neighborhood was pretty drenched in a gang culture, and a lot of the kids were being recruited to do breaking and enterings or were involved in drug trafficking. And because of that, like we wanted to create a safe place where they could play basketball and they could play games and they would have, homework assistance. And once those kids started coming, the families were involved, so heavily involved that now mom and dad are the ones bringing their kids, and or grandma's the one who's bringing her grandchildren now, who has watched another, group of kids go through our programming. And it becomes really, really special because it's not just the singular thing that one child experiences it and then it has, it's an isolated impact. It's like an entire family investing in the well-being of the kids and everybody looking like out for each other. And I hear so many people describe like people who've come through the Lighthouse as this was like a family for them. Like this was a community, a deep, like rich community for them. And I mean, they show up to process, a lot of the protests this past summer. They show up to process, being down there and protesting themselves and how that's weighing on them, or, some of the things that they've been seeing. And I think just having that safe place and people that they've loved for a really long time, still be here and still care about them. That investment, I mean, it's so funny to me. I've grown up in Stark County my whole life,
Mhm.
and I went to college at Malone, so not too far from here at all, like right up the street. And I was always told, like, do not cross the tracks, the railroad tracks to go into Southeast Canton. Like, that was the big no-no. Like, as a female, as yeah, do not go in that side of town. Like, there wasn't anything over there that was good. And then my senior year at Malone, I started, interning at this little nonprofit called the Lighthouse. And I started helping out in the after school program and getting to know some of the kids and some of the families. And I just realized what a special place this was. Like, what a
Wow.
special thing that the relationships that were being created were like they were just so good, and they were worth like really investing in, because what everybody was contributing, like everybody was involved. It wasn't like a program just for kids. It was a program that cared about parents too, speaking to the dignity and worth of the parents as caregivers of their children. So it becomes this family experience for a lot of people. And so we have people of all ages coming back and wanting to help, and our high schoolers wanting to help with the elementary schoolers in the after school program. And we have middle schoolers who still want to come back to after school, and they want to help too. And then we have alumni popping in from time to time who just want to stop in and say hi, or they just got back from being overseas with the Air Force, and they want to come back and say hi. And
Yeah,
it's really special.
that is super special. So I loved hearing a little piece of your story in there about how, interning during your senior year at Malone University, you were introduced to this ministry and how it changed your life. It changed your life so much that you decided to, you know, maybe, take the job and change the trajectory of maybe what you thought was going to happen in your life. And you moved into the community. Tell me about that decision. You now live in the community where you work.
Yeah. I had this idea that I would be going into some like public relations marketing position. And, when you think of things from like a career projection, you think, oh, I'm going to get into a company and I'm going to have these experiences and I'm just going to keep moving up, or I'm going to go to new cities, or I'm going to travel, or whatever it is that, that interests you is going to kind of shape your career. So I remember starting here and thinking, oh my gosh, this is so different and so special. I may need to reevaluate like what is really like what this career goal is, or what this end goal is, because I think that there's so many things that I see other friends in positions where they are turning over like every 2 years and having new experiences. And then this is a place that I get here and I'm like, I don't want to leave. Like, everything about this I love and I'm passionate about, and I'm constantly learning and having new experiences. And I think it's the culture here. I think it's the leadership here. It is so in tune with like development and growth, and focusing on developing leaders. And so right after graduation from Malone, my family I grew up in Hartville. My family then had moved to Jackson Township. And when I was offered the job at the Lighthouse, I was coming in from, Maslin every day, and I'd come in with my Starbucks and I'd roll in. And after a little while, I started to feel like this fraud. Like, I had enough separation between me and maybe some of the real like systemic issues in Canton, or enough separation to not maybe, I felt very deeply about this place, but everything was at a little bit of a distance that it still felt a little safe, in the sense of like I hadn't dove like all in yet. And I'm starting to feel a little bit like a fraud, because at the end of the day, I would just go home and I'd live this completely, different life where, a lot of the people who started the lighthouse or shaped the lighthouse, the two founders were still living in the neighborhood. They'd been here for 25 years. And at this point, it would have been around like 11 years that they had been here. When I think back on that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been here for 9 years and I don't see like an end time, in sight. So I moved to the neighborhood out of that kind of that wrestling, in the sense of I wanted to be authentic, but I also wanted to be so true to our mission and our vision. And one of the ways that I felt like I could do that was I had this idea that communities could be deeply shaped by programs and people if those people were like all in. And came here, moved into the neighborhood, and honestly, my relationships with our kids, our families, like they completely changed. So they were good before, like they were so good, but now they were like even better. And I say that in the sense of like, I was that safe house now on our block, that when kids were getting hurt or they were getting scraped knees from riding their bicycles or roller skating, like they were them, coming over and they were popping in, and it became this thing. Like there's no part of community living that is 9 to 5. Like that is just non-existent. So people who are wired for a 9 to 5 job, like, it does not happen. But there's this deep richness that comes from this extension, like this deep extension of yourself, that like this then becomes like not only like this nonprofit, but it becomes this like service call, in the sense of like, we're kind of all in this together. And because this space, like the lighthouse, is so careful about wanting to represent the dignity and worth of all people, like there's no hierarchy, there's no order to things. Like everyone has a voice in what our programming looks like. And I say that in the sense of, we ask our parents to volunteer in our programs and give feedback to what they see and what they're experiencing and what they want their kids learning about. Like we ask our parents to say, and grandparents to say, hey, what are the things that you want to be offered as enrichment programs for the kids? So if that means that in our art studio that we have dance classes or drumming classes, like what are the things you want offered? Because our goal is to provide a program and a community that's deeply shaped by the people that are here.
So tell me about your personal story. Now, you let me know that you foster is it 2 teenage girls?
1 teenage girl.
1 teenage girl. Okay. So tell me about your experience, and did the Lighthouse play a part into that?
Yeah. So the lighthouse definitely played a part in that. I had always envisioned that if I would be a foster parent, it would be for a much younger child, that it would be an elementary schooler who could be a part of our after school programming, and everything would just kind of naturally transition. But that never happens the way that we think it will. And it was actually a child that had grown up as part of our programming for years. So I had known her for years. And at this point, I was helping out with our high schoolers. So my job at the Lighthouse is development and communications work, but then I also help out doing mentoring with our high school club. And so she was a part of our high school club, and known her family for years, knew all of her siblings. And when she ended up going into like foster care, that was one of the, like, I was able to have her move in, and it happened very quickly. And honestly, it was like the biggest gift. Like I wasn't ever sure about, as somebody who imagines like being able to foster a younger kid, I wasn't sure what to even think about for a high schooler. And it's become this absolutely incredible, beautiful experience. And like, honestly, I am told all the time by people like how great she is. And like, I know it. Like, I know I hit the jackpot with this kid. Like, she's just so amazing and so funny and hilarious and smart and beautiful. And It's been amazing. So I really encourage any person who's even, considered fostering. I know that's part of your story, but anybody who even considers that to like really, really give that a try, because if it's on your heart, I think it's on your heart for a reason. And Stark County really, really needs like good people who are willing to open that space in their lives for a child. I think right now we have one foster parent available for like every 4 kids. And so like there's a deep need in Stark.
Absolutely. You guys hear that? If you have any inkling that the Lord wants you to go in that direction, please be obedient and follow that nudge and just get some information about it. Kelly, it is so amazing to speak with you. Your passion and your heart is just so inspiring, and it is contagious. And so I really, really appreciate your time today. Before we go, I want you to tell me how people can engage with Lighthouse Ministries.
Ooh, do we have some fun ways coming up? Yeah, well, thank you, Whitney, for inviting me to be on here, because this has been a lot of fun. And if I overshared, just know that I'd be happy to meet with anybody for coffee and give some more space to answering questions but yeah, for the future, we have a couple events and we also have a goal for this end of year. So as 2020 wraps up, we are looking at raising $30,000 to continue being on our meeting budget. And with COVID, obviously different people, longtime donors, everybody's in a different position. And if anything that we've seen from this season is people are even more generous and more interested in ways that they can help in meaningful ways that really deeply impact the communities that they're a part of. And so we have been on the receiving end of a lot of those blessings, but just really encourage people that if it is the Lighthouse that resonates with you, if it is work with kids, to check out the organizations in your community that you could be a part of, or if you can't be there to volunteer, like in person, to financially support, because there's a big need in a lot of ways. Like Stark County or not Stark County itself, but Canton is one of the top 4 in the entire nation for children living under the poverty line. So there's a big need here. And if that resonates with you at all, I really encourage you to reach out. We have a website, Facebook page, Instagram. Feel free to contact. You can send me an email and I'd love to point you in a direction. Or we have donors who say, yeah, I'm really passionate about dance and I want to pay for all the dance classes that you are going to be offering. Or I'm really passionate about business building and I want to support the Business Builders program. And so you can fund specific things if that's what you'd like to do. We also have incredible donors who say, you know what, we know overhead costs are there. We know that it costs to run a copier and to run electric. We want to cover that. So if any of those things resonate, I'd say give us a call. Also, we have an exciting fundraiser coming up in May. And Whitney, I'm hoping you're going to do this, but it is rappelling down the Ernesto. So it's 14 stories.
I know you don't. Wish I was going to.
It's 14 stories. Last year, so many people around Stark did it. We had, I think, about 70 people participate, but the goal is that you raise money specifically for our scholarship fund and our after school program. And so that money went into when our kids graduate from high school, some of them the last 2 years becoming first generation high school graduates. Wow. From their families, we're able to say, based on your participation in Lighthouse programming over the years, you can, if their grades and their participation and recommendations from teachers, they could be up to almost $1,500 to $2,000 that we could put towards books, we can put towards school bills, we can put towards, a trade school, something that interests them to do further education. We want to offer that. And so the Over the Edge fundraiser is coming up in May, and we'd love for you to be a part of it.
Well, we'll see about that. No, but no, that's amazing. That is very exciting. So, Kelly, again, we're going to wrap up this conversation, but thank you so much for your heart. Thank you for what Lighthouse Ministries is actually doing in this community. I didn't know half of the stuff that you shared. I do follow you on Instagram. I love the photos, the smiling kids, and they just look like such a great group of children. So thank you again for being here with us today.
No, well, thank you, Whitney.
Thank you to our guest today, and thank you for tuning in. Cheers. Until next time.